Blood of the Forgotten Daughter. An African folktale stories of betrayal, lies, truth, and the revenge. Have you ever seen a person cry until their voice disappears, until their tears turn to blood, and their silence becomes a curse? That was what happened the day Nena's body was found by the riverbank, her face covered in dust and shame, and her blood soaking the ground she once walked on. That day, the whole village of Umuokpura learned that even the dead do not forget, and that the blood of a forgotten daughter never sleeps. My name is Obina, and I grew up in Umuokpura, a quiet village tucked between two hills and a forest that always whispered when the wind blew. People here minded their business, worked their farms, and respected the gods. But behind that peace was something dark, the silence that ate people from inside. We had our secrets, and one of those secrets was Nena. Nena was my childhood friend. She lived with her widowed mother, Mama Ifeoma, in a small mud house at the edge of the village. Her father had died in strange circumstances years ago. Some said he offended the gods, others said it was poison. But one thing was sure, ever since his death, misfortune followed their family like a shadow. Still, Nena grew up with laughter in her eyes. She was smart, hardworking, and kind. If you saw her once, you'd remember her, that girl with the scar under her left eye and a voice as soft as morning rain. But the world is not kind to girls like Nena. It all started during the planting season of 1996. The king's son, Prince Ekozona, returned from the city. He was tall, proud, and spoiled. Women whispered when he passed, men bowed even when their hearts didn't want to. He had that kind of power that made people afraid to speak the truth. One evening, as we fetched water by the stream, Nena told me she had seen the prince staring at her. She laughed it off, but I saw worry in her eyes. I told her to stay away, that rich men like him didn't see girls like us as human beings. She nodded, but I knew her silence meant she didn't believe me. Days turned into weeks, and rumors started to spread. People said the prince had been seen talking to her near the old palm tree. Then one day, she didn't come to the stream. She didn't come to the farm either. Her mother searched the whole village calling her name, Nena. Nena, but there was no answer. 3 days later, her body was found near the riverbank. She had been assaulted, beaten, and thrown away like trash. The prince's red cloth was found near her body. Everybody knew what that meant, but nobody said a word. That night, our village was quiet, too quiet. Mama Ifeoma wailed till her voice cracked. She went to the palace, carrying her daughter's torn wrapper, and threw it at the king's feet. "Give me justice," she cried. But the guards dragged her out, beating her like a thief. The king said she had insulted royalty. That was the day Mama Ifeoma swore an oath. Before the shrine of Ola, the earth goddess, she tore her wrapper, smeared her face with her daughter's blood, and said, "If there is justice on this land, let the blood of my daughter speak. Let her torment those who buried the truth. Let no peace dwell in the house that shed innocent blood." People said she had gone mad. But sometimes, madness is the only language pain understands. For weeks, strange things began to happen in the palace. The prince fell sick, fever, nightmares, and screams in the night. He said he saw a girl standing by his bed, her eyes red like burning coals. The king called herbalists, priests, and even men from the city, but nothing worked. One by one, the servants started leaving the palace. They said they heard footsteps at midnight, and the sound of crying from the empty courtyard. I was just 18 then, but I remember everything clearly, the fear, the whispers, the feeling that something terrible was about to unfold. Then one morning, they found the prince dead, his face twisted in terror, his hands clawing at his neck. The king called it a spiritual attack. He buried his son secretly before sunrise, but it was too late. The story had already spread. Mama Ifeoma didn't smile, didn't cry, she just sat in front of her house staring at the sky. "Let them bury their lies," she said. "The earth knows the truth." But peace never returned to the village. Crops failed, children fell sick, and strange noises came from the forest at night. The elders said Ola, the earth goddess, was angry. They called for a cleansing ritual, a sacrifice of 7 goats and 7 virgins. People trembled, but who could question the gods? That was when the real nightmare began. The chief priest, old Okonkwo, said the curse came not just from the prince's sin, but from betrayal within the land. He said the blood that cried from the ground demanded to be remembered, and that one person still carried guilt on his tongue. When I heard that, my heart started beating fast. Because I knew something I had never told anyone. The night before Nene disappeared, I saw the prince drag her into his father's barn. I heard her cry out, and I wanted to help, but I froze. Fear tied my legs. I ran home and locked myself inside, convincing myself that someone else would help her. Nobody did. For years, that guilt lived in my bones like fire. I was the witness who kept quiet. One night, months after the prince's death, I heard a knock on my door. It was Mama Ifeoma. Her eyes were hollow, her hair white as ash. She said, "Obina, the gods have chosen you. My daughter's blood knows your silence." Before I could speak, she pressed her palm on my forehead and whispered something in Igbo I didn't understand. That night, I dreamt of Nena. She was standing in the river, her white dress floating around her like smoke. Her voice was soft but heavy. "Obina, you saw me die, and you said nothing. You must speak the truth, or carry my pain forever." When I woke up, my bedsheet was wet, not with sweat, but with water. And there was a red handprint on my door. The next day, I went to the village square and told everything. How I had seen what happened. How the king had paid the guards to dump her body by the river. How they burned her mother's farm to silence her. The people were shocked. Some spat on the ground, others cried. The elders summoned the king, but before dawn, he fled, leaving his throne behind. They said he ran into the forest and never returned. That was when the cleansing began. They dug up Nena's grave and reburied her properly, with songs and tears. Mama Ifeoma died that same night, smiling for the first time in years. And for a moment, I thought everything was over. But I was wrong. 3 months later, the strange thing started again. Women said they saw a shadow by the river. Men heard a voice calling their names in the night. Even I began to feel it, a presence following me everywhere I went. Sometimes, I'd wake up and find footprints of wet mud around my bed. One evening, I went to the river to pray. The sun was setting, and the air smelled of rain. Then I saw her again, Nena. She looked older, sadder, but peaceful. She said, "You did well, Obina. But my blood still flows in the land. Forgiveness must come, or this soil will keep drinking tears." I asked her what she meant. She just smiled faintly and whispered, "Tell my story. Let no daughter be forgotten again." Then she vanished into the mist. After that day, I left Umuokpara. I couldn't stay where ghosts walked freely. But even now, after many years, I still dream of her, standing by the river, her eyes shining like morning dew. People say curses die when truth is told. But I've learned something different. Truth doesn't erase pain, it only opens old wounds for healing. The blood of the forgotten daughter didn't just seek revenge. It demanded remembrance. Years passed. The old king's palace turned into ruins, covered with vines. A new leader rose, humble, just, and kind. He built a small shrine by the river and named it Neoma's Rest, in honor of all girls who died in silence. Every year, on the night of the red moon, the villagers gather there with lamps and songs. They tell the story of Nena, how her blood cried from the ground until justice came. And I, old now, stand among them, my heart heavy but free. Sometimes I think I hear her laughter in the wind, soft, forgiving, eternal. But there's something I never told anyone, not even my children. Sometimes, when I look into the river, I see her reflection beside mine. She doesn't speak. She just stares and smiles that sad, knowing smile. It's as if she's saying, "Obina, justice came, but remember, some sins leave a shadow that never fades." And every time I walk away, the wind whispers through the trees. The blood of the forgotten daughter still remembers. Never bury the truth, because the earth never forgets. When you silence a cry of injustice, you plant a curse that grows in generations. And when a daughter's blood cries from the ground, even the gods will listen. Thank you for watching, my friend. Every story we share carries a piece of who we are. If this one touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Tessyinspire Fantasy Tales. Because here, our stories live forever.